So hello again. Welcome to our webinar, Soil Deal for Europe, Mission Possible in the Baltic Sea Region. So we are organizing this webinar together with my Latvian, Lithuanian and NCBR Poland colleagues in Brussels, and as well together with our NCPs. I'm Eulalio, I'm from Estonian Research Council, but I as well work in our Brussels office. And actually, this is the first webinar out of two. So this webinar concentrates more on the soil mission itself. So what is the soil mission? What is happening in the soil mission very soon? And as well, we invited here ministry representatives from all 4 organizing countries to have an overview of what is happening in the countries, how at the country level we could support the mission, what are the hot topics regarding the soil at the country level, and so on. And after that, we have some presentations from research side. So to have an overview what kind of exciting projects we have in different countries. Our second event will be on 29th of June, and it will concentrate more on the citizen engagement, and as well we try to show how the citizens and the farmers as well have been engaged by small and medium-sized enterprises, by NGOs, and so on. So we very much hope to see you as well our second event. I would give now word to my colleagues who are as well the co-organizers. So perhaps Julia, you could start.
Sveiki atvykę į dirvožemio misijos renginį. Linkiu įdomių pranešimų ir diskusijų. So this was hello in Lithuanian language. We are very happy to be part of the organizing team. And I'd like to mention a little bit also house rules for our event. So some of the rules are please keep your microphone muted during all the event. And also, if you have any questions, so please put them to the chat. My colleagues will control and will take them to our discussions. So please please be active, and put as more questions as you can. So thank you. And I'm giving the word to my Polish colleague.
Dzień dobry, good morning everyone. Welcome on behalf of the National Center for Research and Development Brussels office. We sincerely hope you're going to enjoy this event, and sorry, don't forget, yeah, that's a good timing. Don't forget to use this amazing opportunity to ask questions also to our distinguished panelists. Egita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Carolina. Hello, everybody. Labdien! Sveicieni no Latvijas Investīciju attīstības aģentūras, Inovāciju un tehnoloģiju pārstāvniecība Briselē. Vēlu jums jauku semināru.
So thank you. Ja tere ka kõigile Eesti osalejatele. I think now, without further ado, we will go on with our first presenter, who is Paola Eulalio from DG AGRI. She's a research program manager in Research and Innovation Unit. So could we share, please, her slides?
Good morning, everyone. Maybe I would like, thanks for the introduction, and I would like also to introduce my colleague, Sandra Heiselman, who is here with us today, and she will be presenting with me the soil mission. So we will make a dynamic presentation, and we will talk both of us. And I give the floor to Sandra because she's starting the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Paola. I don't know, I don't see the slides yet.
Yes, I think my colleagues are working on it.
No problem. But in the meantime, I can also say thank you for inviting us for this. I mean, as you all know, the mission launched last year, so we are still in the beginning of the implementation, and for us, it's really important to have the contact to the different member states to see how we can really connect with you and also connect with your regions, because that's where the mission is going to be implemented, and that's why we are always happy when we can present the mission to stakeholders. So now there are the slides, and I think can start. I think most of you already know the title of the mission, so A Soil Deal for Europe, and the goal is to create 100 living labs and lighthouses to lead the transition towards healthy soils by 2030. Next slide, please. So to give a kind of pep talk beginning, and I guess you already know this, so I keep pretty short on that. What are the missions? So the missions are a novelty under Horizon Europe, and they are located in the Pillar 2 of Horizon Europe, and the idea is to really address societal challenges in a new way, to be bold, to be inspirational, and to have measurable goals that have an impact on society. And this whole thing in a specific time frame. The next slide, please. The next one, in case that works.
I'm trying. Do you see it moving?
No.
Okay.
Now it is moving. Okay. So as it is new, and as I said, it goes about societal challenges. There were 5 societal challenges picked for 5 different missions. The first one is adaptation to climate change. I don't need to explain why this is important. Cancer, climate neutral and smart cities, restore oceans and waters, and last but not least, the Soil Deal for Europe. And this is the mission we want to present today. And the next slide, please. So why do we need a soil mission? It's estimated that 95% of our food comes from soil, and healthy soils provide also key ecosystem services like water regulation, nutrient cycling, or carbon storage. And these are all fundamental for climate adaptation and mitigation. They also host biodiversity and carry our landscapes, so they're important for our everyday life. So this is recognized throughout various Green Deal strategies, and I will come to that a bit later. But the problem is they are scarce, and they're a non-renewable resource, so which is currently under threat due to current management practices, pollution, urbanization, and the effects of climate change. And to revert these negative trends, we need to act urgently. So next slide, I think. Yes, so there. So the mission board in the JRC, they have undertaken an analysis and came to the conclusion that 60 to 70% of European soils are not healthy. And this is shown, for example, by 65 to 75% of agricultural soils having high nutrient levels, which risk of eutrophication of both soils and water. And cropland and peatland soils are losing carbon and thereby contributing to climate change. And almost 1/4 of EU land is facing unsustainable water erosion rates. And especially in Southern, Central, and Eastern Europe, there is by now a really high risk of desertification. And I think the floods last year in Central Europe, in Belgium and in Germany have shown what can happen if soils cannot longer absorb water and how quickly productive topsoils can be washed away. The next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, the Soil Deal mission is part of various Green Deal strategies. So it's very highly relevant in the context of the Green Deal. You all know that under the Green Deal, the current Commission has set out a very ambitious policy to become by 2050 the first climate neutral continent and to lead a fair and just transition to sustainable production and consumption. So the Soil Deal is mentioned in several of the Green Deal strategies, as you can see on the left side. For example, the Farm to Fork strategy, the biodiversity strategy, climate adaptation, forests, zero pollution, but also the long-term vision for EU rural areas and now the EU soil strategy. And on the right side, you can see the examples how the soil mission can contribute to these different strategies by, for example, increasing the land under organic farming, reducing the risk and the use of pesticides and fertilizers, and reducing nutrient loss. The next slide, please. So now a bit on the policy framework, because I think this is really interesting. You can see, especially like in the last 2 years, how soil became a hot topic. And you can see this in the EU with what we call our policy framework for soil, and this consists of 3 parts. So on the one hand, we have the soil strategy and the future soil health law, which really build the policy framework. And then we have the EU Soil Observatory, which is currently created by the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, which will serve as a long-term data reservoir. And then we have the Soil Deal for Europe, which is the funding mechanism for research in order to really find innovative solutions to protect and to recover the health of our soils. The next slide, please. So how do we do this? How do we want to achieve our goals? So the main goal is the establishing 100 living labs and lighthouses, but this is not all. So we have in the mission 8 specific objectives who will help us to really bring soil health to the table, but also to really recover it. And you can see, so we have 6 very specific goals, for example, reduce desertification and conserve soil organic carbon stocks, soil sealing, soil pollution, erosion, biodiversity, you name it. But then we have also 2 more horizontal goals, and one of them is the international component of the soil mission, which means we want to reduce the EU global footprint on soils. So it's not enough that we help our own soils if we export the problems. So we really need to avoid that. And then the second one is increasing soil literacy, because I think everyone knows there is soil, but very few know what they do for them. And this is a major hurdle, I think, to really get all on board, because with the missions, the aim is to really connect everyone, citizens, researchers, policy makers, and also end users, in our case, farmers, foresters. And for that, we need soil literacy. For that, we need citizen engagement. And that is the 8th objective. So next slide. So how will the mission be implemented? We have 4 building blocks, as you can see here. The first one is the RDI program. So we create knowledge, data, and technologies to support practices, business models for soil health. I will come back to that soon. Then we have the second one, and this is the one that gives us the name basically to the mission, the living labs and lighthouses. And Paola will say a bit more on this one in a minute. And it's a network of real life sites to co-create and test and demonstrate solutions. Then we have the third one, which is soil monitoring. The problem at the moment is that we don't have a harmonized soil monitoring system across Europe. We have very few member states who actually have a good monitoring system, and this doesn't help us. So we really need to improve the harmonization of the soil monitoring. And the fourth one, as I mentioned before, is soil literacy, communication, and citizen engagement in order to get everyone on board of the mission. So the next slide, please. And this is the last one I'm going to present. So how do we implement the mission? The aim at the moment, so we have 2 strands at the moment. The one is the work program under Horizon Europe, and the other one is the living labs and lighthouses, which are under Horizon Europe, but still it's a unique thing in itself. So Paola will mention this. So under the work program, all the topics contribute to all 4 building blocks of the mission, and also the innovation hotspots that we have identified in the implementation plan. For example, for the first building block RNI, we have, for example, these 2 topics published in the work program 21 and 22. So roadmaps on soil mission objectives, or for example, the mission knowledge repository. Then the second building block is the living labs. There we published a topic on national engagement sessions on living labs and lighthouses. For the soil monitoring, we have a topic on indicators, or on soil carbon and GHG balance monitoring. And for soil literacy, we have topics on engaging with municipalities and regions, and also to foster soil education across society. And then, of course, we have the innovation hotspots. For example, soil biodiversity, carbon farming, and soil pollution. All of these are covered actually in topics in the work program 2022. So a bit also on the work program. So we have published by now work program 21 and 22. 21, the application deadline was in March. So at the moment, the evaluation of the proposals has been finished, and I think the lucky ones will be informed soon. And on the work program 22, so it has been published and it's now open for application since the 12th of May, and the deadline is on the 27th of September. And there we would be really, really glad if you could help us to promote this call, because it's really important for us. For example, it has the framework partnership agreement for the living lab support structure, which is integral to really have these living labs function throughout the life cycle of the mission. And Paola will mention a bit more on this. But it also has other really, really interesting topics. And I think it's really worth to have a look. And in the meantime, we are at the moment also preparing the work program 23, and which should be published by the end of the year. And there we will have the first mission, the first living lab course. And I think also Paola will mention more to that. And this is actually now my part. And then we go to Paola on the living labs, which are the heart of the mission.
Thank you, Sandra. So, well, as you have already heard, one of the building blocks of the mission is this creation of living labs and lighthouses. So for that, I wanted to introduce a bit some characteristics or some definitions. So for us, for the soil mission, living labs are real life sites. It can be in rural areas, in urban areas, or industrial forests areas. It depends on which type of soil we want to tackle. And this is important to mention that the soil mission is not only about agricultural soils. It's really covering all type of soils. And in these real life sites, people from different sectors and different backgrounds experiment and test solutions together to a specific challenge. So each living lab contains several sites. It's not only one site, but we really encourage several sites to be integrating one living lab. And it can be, for instance, in the case of agricultural living labs, farms, different farms. Or if it is an urban living lab, different parks in a city, for instance. And all these sites have to work together at a regional or sub-regional level. So again, why the importance of having multiple sites is to really allow to operate on a scale that will give good results and good interaction between nature and humans, and we can really study and interpret the results better. So yes, I have not gone into the details here about the criteria to, let's say, consider initiative like a living lab under the mission, but the mission has developed a criteria that is publicly available in the implementation plan, so this can be seen online. Well, it is based on again on the scale, on the aim, on the activities that the living lab will follow, the participants, and the overall context. And then we have the lighthouses. As we say here, the lighthouses are sites for exemplary performance. So they are places where good practices are showcased. So they can also serve as places to upscale solutions that are found in the Living Labs. We always say that the lighthouses are places for demonstration, for training, for communication towards future users, towards policymakers, for instance, or in general, towards the broader society. And both Living Labs and lighthouses are key under the soil mission to accelerate the adoption of the practices, the sustainable practices, and also to co-develop methods adapted to local conditions. Next slide, please. So here is where we see how we are going to implement the mission with the Living Labs in the mission. They will be developed gradually. So now we are in the first phase, and this is a phase of preparatory actions. Here we have projects that will map, or that are really focusing on mapping the existing initiatives or the existing Living Labs, and also the existing or the most urgent soil needs that have to be tackled. This is also a phase where engagement sessions in the different countries have to take place to build capacity, to inform people, to really talk to the potential applicants that will then apply for the Living Labs construction, to ensure that there is really a common understanding and the criteria is really well implemented. And also to ensure to have balanced coverage of applications from urban and rural areas. So really to inform all kind of actors. This is also a step where we are going to deploy this support structure, so the Living Lab support structure that Sandra has mentioned. And this is a let's say a body that will really cater for the needs of the emerging Living Labs. And in parallel, we're going to launch the first waves of Living Labs. These are going to be launched also, as we said, in the Work Program 23, so they will only be functional as from 2024. And then it comes the second phase, so the second arrow, and it's when we expect to expand the Living Labs all over Europe through additional calls. And during this phase, we are expecting to cover the gaps that we will find in terms of geography. So places where Living Labs were not developed, for instance, during the first phase, also in terms of soil challenges. So which type of soil needs were not addressed during the first phase, and also land uses. As I said, we really want to cover all type of use of lands. And in the third phase is more about the further waves or Living Labs that will be funded under the soil mission, and very, very important also to accompany, to define really which will be the measures that would facilitate the sustainability of these Living Labs beyond the time of the mission, because the idea is that they remain active and that the mission is like a first step for them to be settled, but then that they have their own way to survive, let's say. So this is how we foresee this network of Living Labs and lighthouses to be gradually established in the EU and well, in the also so the EU countries. And as I say, there will be consecutive calls to fill in this Living Labs need. In the next slide, we can see the other building block that Sandra very well introduced already. So I will go quickly, I think, through this slide. Is about soil literacy. So we know communication and engagement of citizens, of all stakeholders is key. It's another building block of the mission. So the mission will never reach its goals just focusing on research. So really, engagement of community is key. This is why the mission aims at fostering soil education, at engaging and activating the regions and municipalities to design their own methods, their own strategies in order to protect soils. The mission also aims at engaging the private sector and the consumers to integrate soil health good practices in their day-to-day practice or in their day-to-day businesses. And the other aim is to reinforce soil health advice and access to training to people, mainly to practitioners, in line with the agricultural knowledge of innovation systems. So all in all, I would say we want to bring soil closer to citizens' values with this building block. And here in the lower, let's say in the green part of the screen, you can see examples of what has been done in terms of citizens' engagement since 2019, when the soil mission really started. And there have been more than 200 co-creation and engagement events. All in all, the feedback has been very positive, very encouraging. So people are really interested in soil issues from different sectors, but there is a lot to do yet, because this is not a, let's say, an evident topic for a lot of people, as it can be cancer or as Sandra mentioned, climate change. So this, for soil issues, we really have to work with people and inform them very intensively about the problems. And we can also see that in the slide that there have been, you can always access to this, the podcast episodes. There have been videos published, newsletters, and even a fact sheet on Living Labs to inform wide society. Next slide, please. So we found important for this occasion, for this event, to say a few words about the involvement of countries, regions, and local level with the soil mission. And these are just examples, and we are open to also to your comments and your ideas. So for instance, at the regional level or even national level, it's important, or we have seen already the formation of mission mirror groups. Also, it's important at regional level to mobilize stakeholders for instance, their involvement in specific Living Labs. So how this is done? Well, through sharing information, through organizing capacity building sessions, and different type of engagement at your level. So engaging, I would say, also in dialogues with more local policymakers, with lobbyists, with NGOs, cooperatives, farmers, advisors, of course, as well. So there are several actors from both private and public sectors that are concerned. And we need to engage them. We need to foster conversations in order for solutions to be really widely adopted. So the other way for countries and to promote and to be involved in the mission is, as Sandra said, to promote the calls, and now more than ever to promote the work program 2022 that is open until September. We also think that regions and countries can contribute on the soil monitoring part. It's also important the promotion of soil measures, soil improving measures within the strategic plans, the national strategic plans under the CAP. And also, this is the moment to build links, connections between the mission and the CAP, and this can be done at local level. This is why we say that making use of the EIP AGRI operational groups that operate more at local level to promote the mission objectives is important. So we have seen that this EIP AGRI network is really good and effective to disseminate and foster exchange of good practices in terms of soil protection. And last but not least, establishing, as we say here, a core network for missions at national level. And for this, we give an example of one of the calls of Work Program 21, where coordination of complementary actions for the missions are promoted. Next slide, please. I think it's the last one. Yes. So here we wanted to also give a very short overview of which are the links that the synergies we have already been working very intensively lately between the soil mission and other initiatives, like for instance, the partnerships. So the main synergy I wanted to show here is with the agroecology partnership. There are other partnerships or other initiatives that that will be for sure linked with the mission, but I focus on the agroecology partnership because of the living labs, which are a common tool, that common instrument that will serve both initiatives in order to achieve the objectives, the objectives of research. So here we see also which are the examples of possible cooperation between the partnership and the mission, and we mentioned the research calls. Also, there can be, why not, common activities of the two networks of living labs. The living labs can be really connected because agroecology principles are really going hand with the soil protection. And also in terms of monitoring activities, there can be a link. And why I focus so much on the link through living labs, because the living labs builds on the multi-actor approach, and these are requirements applicable to both mission and partnerships, and also because it extends in 3 dimensions that are also applicable to both types of initiatives. That is time. So these 2 initiatives, missions and partnerships, go really beyond time-bound project. So we really are talking about long-term projects. Also, geography, we're acting in both initiatives at the landscape level, not just at farm level. We're really looking at like a system, an ecosystem. And the content, we are talking about transdisciplinary approaches, where a whole system is involved. So I think this was next slide. I think this was my last slide. Yeah, so these are just useful links that we always like to mention in case you have some questions or you are interested in some specific topic. You can go to these links. Thank you.
Thank you, Paola. Thank you, Sandra, for this very nice overview. And yes, my question was related to the best info channels, but when you had the last slide and you answered that question as well. So we have received already some questions in advance by participants, but I think majority of them was already answered during your presentation, because what is very often discussed as well is how the missions are linked with our initiatives, but I think you had very good slides about those connections. So the different commission initiatives are indeed very, very much linked. But I would give word now to my colleague Egita, who was monitoring the questions in the chat. So perhaps we will take 1 or 2 very short questions from a chat.
Excellent. Yes, thank you so much for the presentations. I see some questions still pending. What organizations could be the most fitting to host the living labs in this initiative? How would you describe them?
Sorry. Organizations to host most fitting host of living labs in country or region. So for the living labs, we really expect that to have several. So it's a multidisciplinary, a multi-stakeholder approach. So we expect that there will be research performing organizations for sure. So we need the research side, the science side, but also the real farms, in case we're talking about agricultural living labs, farms, real farms where practices are tested in the real ground. We also expect to have academics, so universities. And as I said as well, the solutions that are going to be tested in these living labs are really focused and linked with implementation. So we want also citizens, so the broader community to be involved, and it can be through consumers, cooperatives, or other type of organizations. So it's really a multidisciplinary initiative, but the center, always the center user, in case of, again, farmers living labs, will be the agricultural living labs will be the farmer, the end user, the farmer. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. So for the answer, still Riley has a clarification question. So does Living Lab is then one physical site, even with multiple players there? Is it expected to be one physical site?
Well, that's the big difference, not the big difference, but the main characteristic of the Living Labs we are looking for within the mission. We want Living Labs to have multiple sites. And as I mentioned before, it's important to, in order to have this reproducibility and to have solutions into really focusing on a local problem, on a local context, but then to be able to scale it up and out to other regions or other situations that have the same problem. So no, for us, the Living Lab cannot be only one site. It has to be formed by several sites. And I think I see in the chat how many sites per Living Lab. And this is really a very difficult question to answer, because if you have seen the implementation plan for the soil mission, that is a publicly available document, it has mentioned between 10 and 20 sites. However, we acknowledge today, after having worked already with member states, and as you know, this is a process that is also under consultation very, very closely with member states, and we realize that for some type of Living Labs and for some type of topics that we want to tackle, it is very difficult to have so many sites working on a thematically related issue. So what we are saying, we will, so the soil mission in these first steps, it will be possible to have less than those 10 to 20 mentioned sites originally in the implementation plan. So less sites are allowed. How many? We cannot be so prescriptive on how many. It will have to be justified by the applicant in terms of which problematic he will be facing, and which type of Living Labs. For instance, agricultural Living Lab will be easier to have 10 sites looking for carbon farming issues, but maybe it will not be so easy to have 10 sites looking into soil pollution due to, I don't know, mining problems. So that's why we really think it has to be flexible.
Oh, that's very good insight, very useful indeed. And just to clarify, so it should be one Living Lab is a cross-border initiative.
Yes, we don't make distinctions among countries anymore. It's really well, we are working under Horizon Europe requirements. So as you may know, the requirement is to have at least 3 countries involved in a project, but then that's an overarching requirement. Then the Living Labs do not have a let's say a country border.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Paola. I give the floor back to Ula to continue with the program.
Thank you very much. So I think it was a very, very good overview, and now we zoom into national level. And we will hear the presentations of different ministries. And I would give the word now our very good colleague Karolina to lead the next panel.
Thanks very much, Ule. As we already heard, Paola mentioned, actually introduced some examples on countries' involvement within the soil mission. So let's continue with the topic. And I would like to invite you to the second part of the event dedicated to the coordination and implementation actions in our respective countries. So I would like to invite Eike Lepmens, Chief Specialist from Ministry of Rural Affairs from Estonia. Eike, the floor is yours. Thank
Yes, good morning to everyone. First, let's have a look if you see my presentation. Can
you put it in presentation mode?
Yeah, I tried. Do you see it in a presentation mode now?
Yes, it's perfect. Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Good morning once again. As the time is very short, I will jump into the topic immediately. So everyone needs to understand that soil is considered a fragile and non-renewable resource, and it takes centuries to form. So we need to act now and join the forces in a society to keep the soils providing us the very necessary ecosystem services now and also in the future. So Estonia is very much in favor of the recent initiatives mentioned also today from the Commission, both the soil strategy and the mission we're talking today, and use of the soil observation. There are different instruments we can use to achieve healthy soils, and we consider raising the knowledge about the soils, its functions and good practices as one of the most important. And this is what the mission is also addressing the most. Estonian official views about the missions are very positive, so we support it as a whole. It's very ambitious and comprehensive. We believe that it's important to focus also very much to the local level in implementing it, as soils are very different due to the diverse soil formation processes and factors affecting the soil health. So this is what we have seen also in a mission programs. I'm going to give very briefly the overview of what Estonia is doing to complement the mission, and using those building blocks to keep it more structured. So although Estonia hasn't formed an official core network yet, but there are a lot of ongoing activities which are really contributing, so which I'm going to briefly introduce you now. So in terms of research and innovation, we have two main universities who are engaged in soil issues. And Agriculture Research Center is the one also supporting them very much. So Tartu University, University of Life Sciences, and the ministry is also supporting different partnerships. It was also mentioned today already, agroecology living labs, EGP Soil as one of the core activities, so to say, and then the Global Soil Partnership also as well. Somehow you don't see the whole. I don't know if I can go back, because I don't see the whole slide, and I think that you also don't see the whole slide.
Maybe you should try to go back, and if not, I will try to share the presentation.
Yes, otherwise, yeah. Yes. So how can we proceed further? Shall I keep it like this?
Can you try to put it on again, please? And if not, I'm
okay. I'm trying to put it to. Yes. Yes, I think it's the same still. I'm sorry. This is what I see. It's not a whole. Would it possible from your side to show the slides, or?
Okay, I will try if you don't mind.
Thanks. Yeah. So I'm stopping sharing it now. Otherwise,
can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
I cannot hear you.
We can hear you very well. I have a slides opened as well, so I can try to share as well.
I cannot hear you, Eike.
Yes, I hear you well. Do you hear me?
Yes, so Ulla, go ahead.
Yes, I tried to share from my computer.
Otherwise, I can show also this working mode, but maybe it's not the most convenient.
Yes, so let's see. But
I think it was.
Yeah, it still cuts the slide.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it still cuts the slide. So let's show it in this working mode.
Exactly. Let's go.
Okay, but maybe it's easier when I do it myself.
You can just say next slide, and I will.
Okay. Okay, let's do it in this way. So sorry for this. Yeah, it happens. So I can't do anything against it. So this is a slide showing what the University of Life Sciences is focusing in their research. There are doing a lot in soil quality and functions, soil organic matter and carbon in ecosystems is their focus. Soil structure and its stability, greenhouse gas fluxes from soils, fertilization, of course, and nutrient cycles in soils, alternative fertilizer resources, soil biota, and they're also experimenting in labs and fields and doing a lot of long-term field experiments and working together also with a crop or soil cluster. Yeah, next slide, please. So they have different or many ongoing international projects. CGP Soil was already mentioned, and they are also they have internal projects as Carbosec, Siren, Isompe, Serena, and Soil Compact. So these are very interesting to the farmers and also to the ministry also. Yeah, we can go further. This is also that we have been participating in FAO Global Soil Partnership call for national soil carbon sequestration potential mapping. So the role of soils and soil organic carbon is very important. So here you see if going and looking at the different scenarios, what would be the absolute sequestration rate in 1 kilometer resolution. Yeah, I think I have to go further. And in this version, you see that the capture is very heterogeneized in Estonian soils. So we had to modify these input layers based on the local data available. And it was modeled to 40 meters resolution. So it's important to go as detailed and as possible. Yes, please further. Here are some other ongoing international projects as MinAgris and Soil Agro, which has a meeting also right now. MinAgris is about micro and nanoplastics in agricultural soils, and Soil Agros is about soil biodiversity enhancement in European agricultural systems. Yeah, the next slide, please. This is the slide from Tartu University. They're participating in Soilman project. They are focusing on tillage, on conventional and reduced tillage, and looking also soil biota. And this is the soil biota is one of the core topics for Tartu University to work with. Yeah, that's next slide, please. And a very interesting project they have had is the effects of agricultural land use on soil biodiversity, which was also promoted and got a lot of attention also from a public. So their result was that the plant protection products decreased the soil fungal diversity and natural habitats around field increased fungal diversity. So we're looking at different management and took a lot of data to get those results. Yeah, the next one, please. Yeah, and also that university has worked different tools for ecologists, databases for arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, and there are also bioinformatics GDate and other tools. Yes, can go further. Coming to the second building block, it's about living labs and lighthouses, as was told already. And we can't say that these are exactly the same, but they have some potential to become living labs and lighthouses in a mission. So Research Center of Organic Farming at the University of Life Sciences is interdisciplinary center in order to bring together different organic farming and food studies in the university and to initiate further activities. And the Agricultural Research Center, they have agricultural park in Kuusiku, where the main objective of the park is to promote and popularize the history of rural life and the agri-environmental measures, and the park also conducts some field trials, and there are also examples of Estonian soils to see there. The next one, please. This is the living lab, I guess, which so to say living lab, which has formed by NGO Soil Innovation Cluster, and is really working together with many farmers and many sites, and together with the researchers. They are doing different research, as mentioned, as is mentioned already, also in this slide. Looking different intercropping possibilities and doing other type of research important for farmers. Yeah, next slide, please. In terms of soil monitoring, there is national soil monitoring going on in Estonia. We are doing physical analysis and different chemical analysis. So we started already at 1983, and then restart was after stopping for a while in 2001. So we have a lot of nice data, but there is enough, let's say, place to go even more specific and engage more areas to get the better data about the Estonian soils. Yeah, next one, please. And we are working also to develop the methods for soil biodiversity evaluation. So this would be also in the future part of national soil monitoring, as well as part of the farmers where they are taking the soil samples for their own needs. So we are working together with Tartu University and Agricultural Research Center to find the best solution for this. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, and about in terms of soil literacy, I would say also that soil has got more attention recently. Not that much. We haven't heard about the mission from the media, but you see more that different articles are talking about the soil, the importance of soils, looking different. What are they providing to the society? There have been TV and radio broadcasts, podcasts, and specialized trainings as well as important for the farmers and other land users. Every day we are celebrating 5th September as as a soil day at the national level. And we have also soil. We are also acknowledging the soil of the year, and this is the techno soil this year. So every year we have different soils to pay more attention to the different variation of the soils. And there are also booklets available for everyone to talk about different functions of the soils, and to introduce to engage wider society with the soils. Yes, next one. So Agricultural Research Center wants to be a soil map interpreter for the farmers. So we have set up a system where almost all the data can be analyzed on the basis of GIS system, which gives opportunity to perform a wide variety of analysis and make smarter decisions at both the national and the local level. We have a high-resolution digital soil map, and we have made our data more user-friendly and easier to understand for farmers through the innovative web map applications that link to different databases. So there are crop suitability mapping and mapping application for soil texture and soil erosion, and map-based application for soil sampling. Yeah, the next one, please. So that's my last slide. So in terms of literacy or talking the importance of the soil, we see also raising interest in city and community gardens or school gardens, which are very important and effective tool to engage people in a wider society, young people and older people. And we have a few and very nice examples of it. So that was my presentation, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Eike, for this interesting presentation and on this variety of actions that actually you're having in Estonia. Without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to Kristin Sirma, the head of division from the Ministry of Agriculture from Latvia. And I would like to also ask all the upcoming panelists to stick to the time, because we actually are running out of it. Thank you very much. Kristin, the floor is yours.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me and see me?
We hear you, we see you perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So yes, I'm representing Ministry of Agriculture of Latvia, and I am the head of Sustainable Agriculture Development Division. I will really try to fit in 7 minutes, and hopefully less. So generally, we agreed with the organizer that I will not present you a presentation, just to give you a short overview what we have and where we stand in Latvia regarding the soils. And today, my speech, as I'm representing Ministry of Agriculture, I will mainly focus on the agriculture land. I know that the soil mission covers all the soil types and soil categories, land categories, but today, yeah, the main focus in agriculture land. So allow me to give you a bit of history, and don't be afraid. I will not go too deep, and I will not tell about the soil initial genesis or development of soil formation processes after last glaciation in Latvia, but in 2010, in Latvia has adopted one of the hierarchical highest policy planning documents, Sustainable Development Strategy for Latvia 2030. And it was recognized in this policy planning document that we have to put all efforts and to maintain soil health, fertility, and to decrease soil erosion. And it was the momentum for us in the Ministry of Agriculture when we put in the spotlight the questions relation to agriculture, soil sustainable use, and soil governance system per se. And in 2014, thanks to European Economical Agreement Grant Project, together with the University of Latvia, we digitalized all historical soil maps from Soviet time, and we now have the agriculture soil maps in digital form, but it is it's not updated yet, but we are working on that. And in 2015, the EU General Assembly adopted a 2030 agenda for sustainable development goals. And one of the goals out of 17 has related directly to the soil, and it's called the number 15 is life on land, and then followed by Paris Agreement on climate change, with the FAO Global Soil Partnership, with different soil initiative. For example, I would like to mention the International 4-Promille Initiative, Soil for the Food Security and Climate, so launched by the France. And that was compromised, and that this bunch of different high policy planning documents and goals, we realized that all these elements gave us the confidence that we are on the right track, and we just need to further continue work on the sustainable soil management system in Latvia. And we really did a lot and put a lot of efforts raising awareness. And we started with the government and parliament, and we succeed. And since 2019, in declaration of the action plan of the Prime Minister of Latvia, the Ministry of Agriculture has received a task to improve historical soil information databases and arrange and establish soil information system. I would also would like to mention that in 2021, we can't. This is now the main policy planning document and initiative. It is Green Deal, which was published in 2021, and the Green Deal is overarching many initiatives, strategies, plans, cover all sectors of the economy. With its strategy for farm to fork, this directly relates to the agri-food sector, and strategy set a lot of targets which needs to be achieved, and together with the whole. Every single member state, and altogether probably and most likely it is really ambitious, but we are going to achieve. I'm really looking forward to that, and with the and this is and with the help of the soil mission, I can see that now we can more detailed focus on where we are standing, what we are doing, and where we are moving at the national, regional, and global level. Today, among the speakers, I see the 3 Baltic countries and Poland, but just a small remark I read the title of this webinar. The Baltic Sea region is much bigger, and we have to work side by side and act with all countries around the Baltic Sea. This is macro region issues, and that's why I would really appreciate if we have some webinars, more broader representatives from more broader countries. And only then we together will reach the Green Deal targets. The climate change, extinction of biodiversity, environmental crisis are transboundary problems, and solutions, good practices, advices we can obtain and acquire from different countries and from interdisciplinary research projects within the Horizon Europe. But more important, what I'm really seeing in 17 years for working in the ministry, that we have to communicate. We have to find a way how to communicate, how to explain, how to translate that we really are agreed on what we are doing and that we are on the same pages. Then we can ask, and then we can raise the bold questions and really to see and find the best answers and solutions. Therefore, I really would acknowledge the work which has been done so far by the European Commission on the research framework program of Horizon Europe. Maybe just shortly, national initiatives. So at the policy planning level, we have land management law, we have a law on pollution reduction, and just recently, less than 1 month ago, the Parliament of Latvia has adopted amendment on the law on agriculture and rural development. And this includes the delegation for the sustainable use of agricultural land and collection of the information on land fertility level and its change. And the new functions has been performed for the state entity, State Plant Protection Service, and they receive a lot of tasks, but one of the tasks is establish Latvian soil information system on agricultural land. And This information system will include the data on soil agrochemical for performance, soil carbon monitoring, store and update maps on utilized agriculture area, and as well the planning and accounting of the soil management processes. And this soil information system will be available and accessible for farmers, scientists, different stakeholders. But of course, we have to see what data will be open sources and what data will be in limited edition. And all this information system, the system will be part of agricultural land system, which I would say it's similar what is Farm Sustainable Tour developed by the European Commission. And so we are trying really ambitious to collect the information, and afterwards the research may come in with a lot of proposals what to do with data, how to use the data. So we also work on the improving soil literacy, and in close collaboration with the Latvian Rural Advisory and Training Center, as well the University of Life Science and Technology, we have organized several seminars, workshops on soil management system. But I see, and I'm not really touching in my speech, the living labs and lighthouses. This is something where for myself I need to learn more. I need to obtain more information. So this is something which is maybe not very well developed. It's not very well developed if we see this 4 blocks of soil mission. And also what is very important and where we have to think and take into consideration that the EU communication on sustainable carbon cycles and carbon farming initiative, and I see that the soil mission really will be like this merging different what this measures, what is data, and where research comes in. And well, the last maybe some regarding this literacy in Latvia. We have 2-day festival. It's called Lampa. Yeah, I see 1 minute. And this festival, we call it Democratic Conversation Festival with a very broad issues. You imagine 2 days, hard discussions. And for this last 4 years, every year we have a theme about soil sustainable soil management, the need to promote greater understanding of this valuable non-renewable natural resource, and not just the soil, also the land, air, because this is the ecosystem which needs to be kept alive. And this festival is going to be also this year on the 1st and 2nd July, and you are very welcome to come to Latvia or just to connect remotely to different panels, and will be in Latvian and English. And for the secret, I think we also have the discussion about soil this year as well, and maybe even to the soil mission. But this is what really what I wanted to cover in my speech, and thank you for having me today. And really, it was glad to hear the Commission presentation and colleague from Estonia. And at the end of my speech, I really would like to thank the people behind a soil deal for your DG AGRI and DG RTD. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christine, for your intervention. Thanks for the invitation to the July's event, and also for the idea of the maybe next webinars that we definitely are planning to organize. I hope that my colleagues are going to also agree that we definitely need to join forces and work on the soil mission and within the wider scope. So not just the Baltic region countries, as we mentioned, but we have to invite others to collaborate. Without further ado, I would like to invite a representative of Lithuania, Martinas Navikas, Chief Specialist from the Ministry of Agriculture. Martinas, the floor is yours. And please kindly try to stick to the 7 minutes time.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you, all you here. And I will try to be short and represent how the Ministry of Agriculture in Lithuania integrate the science and research results into the real conditions. So I'll start the slide. Do you see?
Yes, we see perfectly. Thank you.
So I represent the Division of Research and Innovations and Knowledge Transfer of the Ministry, and I want to represent three main tools which we use to integrate the science and research results into the real conditions. So we have programs for national and international research projects. Also, we are organizing and selecting funding collaborative, Europe Innovation Partnership groups, but it's more or less our partnership groups where collaborated the science and business projects where the science collaborate with the business projects and trying to integrate the new science research results into the real conditions. So, and also we have an education level where we coordinate and provide farmers with the new and latest new knowledge and the latest trends in the sector. So it's also a very important thing, because it's not enough to find something new, but it's very important to bring the news to the farmers and to the agriculture sector members. So at the main moment, the ministry is involved in many political initiatives and programs and projects, and you can see the list of them. It's Aim for Climate, Global Research Alliance, FACE, BioEast, OECD, SCAR, and also we have funding research projects in the national level, like Lithuanian projects, and regional level, it's like a Nordforsk, and international, the RNets. You can see what this means, but I think you know everything. That Aim for Climate is an initiative of United States and United Arab Emirates, and Global Research Alliance is 60 countries, and it's launched in 2009 and initiated by New Zealand. FACE GPI, it's a programming initiative for agriculture, food security, and climate changes. BioEast, it's a Central Eastern Europe initiative. OECD is agriculture research program, and SCAR is the Standing Committee on Agriculture Research. Now we can see what we can. Now I show what we're doing in the national level, like national research projects. We have such a system that from the bottom to the top, because we are collecting the topic terms from the bottom, from the farm sector, from the different departments, different sectors, like it can be even the engineering, it can be farming, it can be crops, landfills, it can be fishery, it can be forestry, and so on. So we are collecting the thematics, and after that we are just taking and rating them, and by the rank we are financing them also. So we have our own national funding scheme. So you can see what kind of the projects at the moment we are funding. So it's demonstrating climate change migration potential in nutrient-rich organic soils by establishing research-based national greenhouse emissions in a low peat houses. It started 2 years ago, and this year we're waiting for the final report of this research. So also you can see another research projects like evaluation and preparation of industrial hemp products as accumulators of organic carbon in long-term products and soils for their application in accordance with it, and so on. So we are starting each year. We're starting approximately about 10 new projects, and in total we have about 20 projects with the continuous projects which started earlier. And each year we are making the seminars or representation of the topics. For the topics, it's a final topics or semi-topics. Also, we are participate in international projects as I mentioned earlier. So one of them is into ERA-NET phase sulfur threat call, sustainable and resilient agriculture for food and non-food system. So it's a biofood on Mars project, and as you see, Lithuania is a member of the research, and the partners are Estonians, Poland, France, and German companies and universities. We had finalized last year so one project from ERA-NET food. It's one started and must be finalized this year. It's a climate-friendly cattle farming systems, CC farming, and it's a Lithuanian University of Health Science. It's a very interesting and very important topic. ERA-NET RAD also, we started last year development and evaluation of a rapid diagnostic test for carpine viral arthritis and encephalitis, and it's also included the Lithuanian University of Health and Science and ERA-NET Susan project intra and inner breed the biodiversity of European green dairy cattle conservation through use, Lithuanian University of Health and Science. Also, the project name is Rediverse. So now we have opened one call. It's the European Joint Program EGP Solar, the second call, and we are waiting also from Lithuanian scientists the applications. And now was closed for pre-registration North Forsk, and we are happy we get 14 applications from Lithuanian scientists. Also, we participate in ICRAD and phase GPI SUSCORP call for agrobiodiversity. So in the future, we are planning and want to take act in some very important topics for agriculture and farming in Lithuania. It's accelerating farming system transitions. It's a European partnerships. The colleagues mentioned that starts the next year. Safe and sustainable food systems, agriculture data, and animal health and welfare. So as you saw from my presentation, we have 3 tools for the integrating science and research results to the real conditions. So we are going on, and I think in the future we will start to more collaborate with the scientists for the consultation system, renewing, and so on. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation on this wide approach, portfolio actually of projects and actions. And I would like to invite, and last but not least, the Polish representatives. I would like to invite to take the floor Mr. Bartosz Dąbrowski, Deputy Director from Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, and followed by Professor Grzegorz Siebielec from the Institute of Soil Science and Plant Cultivation. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bartosz Dąbrowski. I'm the representative of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Poland. And currently I'm at the SCAR meeting in Paris, so I'm sending greetings from Paris to all of you. I would like to thank you for organizing this event today. And I would like to ask Professor Siebielec to present some examples of actions that we are taking in Poland. So may I kindly ask Professor to show the presentation?
Yes, thank you for your invitation. So my name is Grzegorz Siebielec. I'm leading soil science department at Institute of Soil Science and Plant Cultivation in Poland, which is the institute supporting Ministry of Agriculture in implementation of European initiatives, including also soil mission.
Panie Profesorze, can we ask you to put the presentation mode, please?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Oh, I think it works.
Thank you.
So I will be brief. Anyway, it is impossible to tell everything about the implementation of soil mission plans in Poland. So of course, we fully support mission on soil in Poland, since we are aware of the role of soil in sustainable agriculture and even future of our planet. Only healthy soil is a tool to reduce footprint of agriculture and to sustain food security, especially that human populations are still increasing globally, and land available for food production is decreasing. So only healthy soil can help to sustain that food security. Of course, there is a lot of discussion at EU level on soil, and this is very good. But we know that this is time to go more to the bottom, and, for example, explain farmers that soil, healthy soil is not only to reach some European targets or European strategies, but it is also for them, that they, especially when cost price of fertilizers is galloping, is increasing now. Only having a healthy soil, you can a bit decrease the cost of production. And this is also, there is also the need to listen farmers, what stops them, or what is a bottleneck for them to implement more sustainable soil management. And we are sure that a soil mission roadmap will help to start and initiate, facilitate that kind of discussion. Of course, EJP soil, as in the case of other countries, and the National Soil Hub that we are developing under this European Joint Programming on Soil will be an important part, important tool at the national level to support the implementation of the mission. We are inviting all interested parties that have decision makers, scientists, soil experts, also citizen representatives, advisory networks, and this will be the platform for discussion, exchange of some knowledge, experiences, and of course raising awareness on the soil importance. This is a bit different than the Living Club, because this is to map some structures and develop some strategies at national level, while Living Clubs are more local and more thematically focused. Of course, we all need still to train that new terminology on hubs, Living Clubs, lighthouses. Regarding research and innovation component of mission implementation, of course, EJP soil is a central point here. We are also in a coordination support action. This is new prep soil project that was granted in the first call of Horizon Soil Mission. It will start this autumn, and this is the project to prepare the ground for development and launching the Living Clubs like houses across Europe. Of course, would be much easier to make it in interaction with many other European countries, to make it properly, efficiently at national level. Living Club components, we are working on it. We've been working on it even before the mission was established. So national network of demonstration farms is being developed by Agricultural Advisory Center. This will be more lighthouses using the mission terminology. Soil, of course, will be important part of the demonstration. We developed some living labs under targeted subsidy from the ministry to the institute, our institute, and this task is dedicated especially to water management and retention in soil, since Poland suffers quite frequent droughts in agriculture. And of course, prep soil living labs will be also important part. We are applying for new projects. Now we are waiting for results of last call, since Polish partners are in many consortia. Our goal, our mission will be also to develop a kind of soil health center for human health, and we applied such a proposal for ERA chair. This is the widening instrument of Horizon Europe. Regarding soil monitoring component, just two examples. One is monitoring of common agricultural policy impact on soil. It was initiated several years ago, because together with ministry we were sure that soil would be very important, and we just wanted to know what is the impact of policies implemented in agriculture on soil. This is the crucial question to make or update the common agricultural policy for future. This involves network of approximately 60 farms across Poland, representative to soil or climatic conditions, production models, and they represent various groups of policy instruments of CAP. The monitoring combines soil sampling campaigns every 3, 4, or 5 years, supported by surveys for collecting information, what practices are applied to farm level to better understand what we observe in soil monitoring. Another instrument is monitoring of peatland soils. Of course, they are very important for local climate, for water retention, for protection of soil carbon. This is biodiversity reservoir. They might be subject of dynamic changes, but as a first step for implementing sustainable management of peatlands, we need to update spatial information on presence and status of organic soils. Regarding communication, of course, EJP Soil National Hub will be important tool here. When we develop the hub, we want to somehow reflect global soil partnership structure and thematic working groups to easily fit to this structure with a national partnership. But also we will be working, or even we are working on citizen engagement component through science festivals, through articles in farmer magazines. We organized local meetings with citizens, especially in urban context, because cities are the places of living for 75% of human population, and these events are to invite citizens to work on some strategies of soil or land management in cities, and show that there are no real conflicts between good, proper soil management and economic development cities. So these are just brief examples what is done in the context of soil mission in Poland, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists for their presentations, and I think it's time for the third part of our event. Ola.
Okay, so I'm taking the third part, Julia from Lithuania. So thank you, Karolina, for going through the second part. And as we are running out of the time, so I'll go directly to our speakers. And I'm very curious to hear more about Baltic Sea region cases from our scientists. So let's go first to the University of Tartu, Estonia, and Marina Semchenko present us the effect of land use change on the interaction between plants and soil organisms. So the floor is yours, Marina. And please, all the participants, please keep the timing. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me to present my proposal. So it's an ERC consolidator grant, and it hasn't started yet. So it's going to be starting from September. And so it's going to be a bit of a change of kind of level of detail, because now I'm going to be actually talking about how real scientists can actually contribute to fulfilling the goals of this soil missions. So how can it be done in practice? So my proposal, or my grant now, focuses on grasslands, and grasslands are really important because they cover around 40% of agricultural land in Europe, and by supporting livestock, they're extremely important for food production, but also traditionally managed grasslands in Europe are biodiversity hotspots and are therefore of high cultural and biodiversity value. But in addition to that, through interactions between plants and soil organisms, the grasslands also provide essential ecosystem services such as soil carbon storage, contributing to climate change mitigation, and also contributing to efficient nutrient cycling and groundwater quality. However, this unique habitat has undergone serious transformation in the last century. On more fertile soil, grasslands have undergone intensification, which is primarily driven by the use of inorganic fertilizers, while on more marginal land, grasslands have been subject to abandonment, so they're no longer grazed or mown and are threatened by tree and shrub encroachment. And in addition to that, today grasslands also are under additional pressure from climate change, and maybe particularly important for agriculture is the increasing frequency of extreme drought events, which can threaten productivity, but maybe even more importantly so, can lead to large quantities of carbon and nitrogen being lost from the soils. So the state of the art in the research today is looking at how land use transitions affect plant species richness and composition. And we also know that carbon storage and efficient nutrient cycling are negatively affected by both land use intensification and abandonment. And now we're also seeing emerging evidence that, for example, intensively managed grasslands are also more susceptible to extreme drought events. However, when we think about climate change, we're missing here a critical process, which is actually what is happening within plant populations. Because if we want grasslands to survive and adapt to climate change, we really need to look at what happens within populations, because it is the genetic diversity within plant species that holds key to adapting to climate change and ensuring the functions in the soil that plants support. And this is exactly the knowledge gap that my project is trying to fulfill. And this is really challenging because it needs combining expertise different disciplines such as plant population biology, also understanding evolutionary processes, and joining them with approaches from ecosystem functioning research and plant microbial interactions. Based on my preliminary findings and my experience in combining these different approaches, I hypothesized that land use change can trigger evolutionary changes in plant microbial interactions, and they can undermine efficient soil functioning and capacity of grasslands to resist drought events. And this could be driven by multiple processes. So land use intensification or abandonment can select for plant genotypes with lower stress tolerance. It can result in decline in functional diversity within grasslands. And finally, it can also disrupt co-evolved mutualistic plant microbial associations in soils that actually key to plant nutrition, stress tolerance, and so carbon storage. And finally, if we're thinking about how these grasslands and microbial communities in the soil respond to land use, we also need to consider historical and landscape context. So we can't only look at local conditions within a particular site, but also need to look at the whole landscape and history of this landscape, because we know that land use history can have a very long-term legacy on processes above ground, on plants, but we don't know how that affects soil processes. And this is again something I would like to address in this research project. So to address these questions, I'm going to use 4 complementary study systems. I will study the impact of land use intensification in the longest running fertilization experiment in the UK, Pargrass, where different types of fertilizer have been applied for the last 160 years. But to provide replication and more realistic effect sizes, I will also look at paired extensively and intensively managed sites in Northern England, where different farmers have either took up the use of inorganic fertilizers in around 1950s or continued with traditional management. Then the impact of land use abandonment will be studied in a network of grasslands in Western Estonia, where around 70% of grassland area has been lost in the last century due to land use abandonment. And finally, I will also be looking at grasslands on the island of Öland in Sweden, where there's a good data on grassland succession over the last 300 years, which enable me to look at plant soil interactions in either grasslands that have been converted from arable land just recently, going through 50 years, 100 years, and grasslands that have not been used in arable cultivation for the last 300 years. So it's divided, this project is divided in 4 work packages, each addressing different objectives. So the first objective is just to survey different populations in all these study systems, make field measurements, collect plant genotypes from the field, and then propagate and phenotype them under common conditions to establish heritable changes in the plants. In the second work package, we'll be looking at how these changes in plant genotypes then affect soil interactions, and we will be testing the hypothesis that extensive management selects for genotypes that invest more carbon below ground, particularly in associations with mutualistic fungi, but intensive management and abandonment reduce this allocation of carbon to fungi and make the system more leaky, so more carbon and nitrogen is lost from the system, particularly when subjected to an extreme drought event. And this will be tested with a range of techniques such as stable isotope labeling, metabolomics, sequencing of microbial communities, functional assay of microbial communities, and also looking how these changes in soil microbial communities then feed back to plant growth. In the third work package, we scale up to community level experiments. So we'll assemble experimental communities of different plant composition and using different soil inocula, and then we'll see what are the wider consequences of these changes in plants for soil functioning and also resilience to repeated drought events. And here we'll be mostly focusing on carbon and nitrogen fluxes. And then in the work Package 4 will be looking at the role of landscape and historical context. So we'll be collecting data on grassland connectivity, current and historical one, people, human population density, continuity of management, to test the hypothesis that consistent low intensity management and high grassland productivity are necessary to maintain grassland resilience to perturbations such as extreme drought events. So collectively, this project aims to uncover the consequences of adaptation to land use for soil functioning and the capacity of plant soil systems to endure and adapt to extreme drought events. It is obviously a basic science research, so primarily it will provide fundamental knowledge of plant microbial interactions, and it will create synergy between different research areas. But I see it as a base that could then be used in projects such as proposed in soil missions to build this knowledge into practical solutions such as management and restoration of grassland ecosystems. So thank you.
So thank you very much, Marina, for comprehensive overview of grasslands, and we learned a lot. So thank you very much, and we are running out of the time, so we are going directly to our second speaker in this part, to Latvia. So Lauris Leitans, he will present the project and the enhancement of sustainable soil resource management in agriculture. So Lauris, the floor is yours.
So one moment. So good day, everyone. I will tell you shortly about our project Enhancement of Sustainable Soil Resource Management in Agriculture, or for short, E2Soil AGRI. I will try to keep it short, give only the most important points and skip some of the things. It is one of the most, if not the most important soil projects currently ongoing in Latvia. And it is a Norway Grants climate project. The budget is about 2 million, and our partners are Ministry of Agriculture of the Republic of Latvia, State Plant Protection Service, University of Latvia, and Latvian State Forest Research Institute Sea Level. And from Norwegian side, we have Norwegian Institute of Bioeconomy Research. Our main objective is to update national soil data for development and improvement of climate change policy, or to put it simply, improve our current existing soil data, fill the missing gaps, and try to interconnect the data as best as we can. All this improved data will help climate change policy, it will help for sustainable soil management, and so on. The project is currently ongoing. It started February 2021, and it will complete January 2024. We have quite different tasks. The project is very ambitious. We are looking at agricultural soils, peatland. We are looking at topsoil, at soil profiles. We're looking at greenhouse gas emissions. We have very patchworky, you could say, results and tasks, but all these results tie in together to give us better information, better data. They somewhat tie to the EU soil mission, especially to the objective of conserving soil organic carbon stocks, as we are especially trying to establish soil carbon monitoring network. But it also connects to the operational objectives of building capacity and knowledge base for soil stewardship, as soil data is required as soil health indicators and as baseline for most of the objectives. I will go shortly over the most important activities in our project. The first activity is improving reliable country-specific soil information of agricultural land. First thing we are doing, we are developing new national soil classification methodology that is harmonized with world reference-based classification, and we're also trying it out in field works. Using this new soil classification, we are developing soil mapping methodology at 1 to 10,000 scale. And using both of these methodologies, we are doing field works, digging about 100 soil profiles in 2 pilot areas, describing them, classifying the soil, and mapping both areas. Afterwards, we will extend the mapping methodology to and develop guidelines for mapping at 1 to 50,000 and 1 to 100,000 scale, and of course calculate costs of the mapping at different scales and digitalization levels. In this activity, we are also looking at peat soils. We are digging about 500 peat soil profiles, and based on these data, we will create a map methodology for peatland distribution assessment and mapping. We are also this methodology will be used practically. You can see in the image to the left in the green, those are areas we will map according to this method. But we have understood that it's impossible to do it in our whole of the country. So we, at the same time, we're also working on machine learning models, modeling, remote sensing, and machine learning to assist us. All these orange and red are the locations where we are doing a limited research for the for the peat mapping for the use in the model. And using both of these approaches, we will create a peatland distribution map. In the bottom, you can see an example of the modeling. For example, the first image is historical peatland distribution contours. The second image, for example, is the model with red are highly likely containing peat soils. And the third image is improved and contours for peat soils. And the image in the bottom right are the soil profiles. The green ones are the ones we are currently done with. And furthermore, in the first activity, we are also updating historical data. We are georeferencing 15,000 historic soil profiles. You can see them in the map. All these georeferenced profiles will be used to update where necessary the soil type maps and contours within. We're also organizing training on soil description and mapping, especially all the previous mentioned activities and tasks I have mentioned before. And one of the most important things we will develop proposals to include all the new data, all the new information in regulatory legislative acts. The second activity is establishing national soil carbon monitoring system. We are planning to establish 200 monitoring points. You can see them scattered on the map. At each point, we will do soil description according to the new methods. We will do various lab analyses, and we also will survey the landowners about crops, fertilizers, yields, and so on. All this data will be used and put in a database that will be integrated in the National Agricultural Land Management System, and it will also be used for carbon stock calculation and integrated in National Greenhouse Gas Inventory Report. The third activity we are doing is developing additional greenhouse gas emission factors for peat soils. Currently, we have established 3 test sites, but we are collecting data for about 2 years. We are looking at greenhouse gas fluxes, environmental parameters, water, soil analyzes, different properties, and also ground cover characteristics like biomass, roots, and so on. All this data will be used to create new greenhouse gas emission factors that will also be used in National Greenhouse Gas Inventory Report. The fourth and the fifth activities are related on experience sharing, improving our knowledge, and cooperation with Norwegian experts, and also participation in various international activities that relate to soil issues. In this fourth activity, our colleagues from NCBR are evaluating our current project implementation and progress, giving advice, and so on. And we also have had a study visit to Norway. So very shortly, this is all about the project. So thank you for attention. I try to keep it very short.
Thank you, Lauris. It was really fit in the time. So thank you very much. And this was very interesting presentation. And we wish good luck with your activities for your project. And we are now flying to Lithuania, and we will have 2 short presentations. So as you saw in the chat, Monica Vilkeni is already very active. I saw that she's inviting for the discussion afterwards. So I'd like to present Monica. Monica, she's from Lithuania, and she will present from Lithuania Research Center of Agriculture and Forestry, and she will present us climate change research in soil sciences review and future collaboration possibilities. So, Monica, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. You can hear me, I hope so, yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
and
great.
We can see the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm from Lithuanian Research Center for Agriculture and Forestry, and I am project manager. I will try to introduce shortly all our activities of our institution. So we have 100 years of experience in scientific experience. So we think that it's our strong position. In 2010, we merged 3 different institutes and become Lithuanian Research Center for Agriculture and Forestry. We have external 5 experimental stations and open access infrastructure. As well, we have more than 10 long-term experiments, which is ongoing for more than 50 years. So we have a huge data base. And of course, we have a staff enough for the implementation of scientific researches. Major facts of our institution. In 2021, we published about 150 publications, and more than 100 was in first and second quartiles. We registered 40 new crop varieties, and 30 varieties were included in the European Union Common Catalogue of Varieties of Agricultural Plant Species. We have more than 180 research and development contracts. I would say top 5 scientific papers were ranged from 9 to 21 impact factors. We have 26 international ongoing projects and cooperating with more than 70 European Union institutions. Actively, we are working with business partners. Our students, PhD students, are working on growing startups, and we hope that they will implement them and will grow to spin-off, not just startups. But we always are open for collaboration. We would like to invite you to our international events, which are coming this year, as I mentioned in a chart, Agrovizia, and next year, as well as we are inviting persons to come to our PhD programs or postdocs. And of course, we would like to express interest in making scientific project proposals. Today, you already saw several times this chart, but I would like to repeat it. What we're thinking and what we would like to do. First step is R&D program, knowledge, data, technologies, and infrastructure. LAMS can offer to you all those 3 things. The second one is living labs and lighthouses. Our idea is what we would like to offer is to establish real-life sites. Maybe 5-6 sites in every Baltic states can be combined and connect in one living lab, which could provide a lot of functions to science society, to farmers, to policymakers, and so on. From our side, we can offer 5-6 sites in this, and we hope to find the colleagues in other countries for this conclusion. Soil monitoring. Unfortunately, in Lithuania, soil monitoring from this year is not going. It stops, if I'm correct, last year. But Lithuanian Research Center for Agriculture and Forestry is participating in AGP soil projects. Now we have 12 ongoing projects and trying to harmonize monitoring and reporting systems across all the Europe. And we hope that these activities will help us to restore the monitoring system at national level in Lithuania. Fourth step, soil literal communication. We think that it's very important. Partnerships also has a very important role in this communication, training, and advice target groups. So now I think we are standing in the first phase. Step one would be to prepare mapping of living labs and soil needs in all Baltic states and to compare what we can do and what our targets are in all the states, and to prepare for the launching of the first call to establish the living labs in the Baltic states, I think so. There are several active calls where land scientists would like to cooperate it. I think so the slides will be shared so we can in detail look in these slides. So thank you for your attention, and I hope so we can continue our discussion a little bit later. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Monica, for presenting and on this nice collaboration view already. So it's the idea for collaborating. I hope we'll have the first lighthouses soon in Baltic. So I wish also to find the partners for your calls. Okay, and I'd like to give the floor to Professor Vaclovas Bogužis from Vytautas Magnus University for short presentation on stabilization of soil organic carbon in agricultural soils. Professor, the floor is yours.
Hello to everyone. And the identification and implementation of land use and soil management practice which create positive agricultural soil ecosystem carbon budget and restore soil quality is specific challenge worldwide, but in Lithuania it's very, very actual, because in Lithuania soils have very low organic matter, organic carbon content, and almost all problems related with soil health, soil quality, emphasis on soil organic carbon. So Vytautas Magnus University Agriculture Academy working in such area from long time, and we have field experimental station, which consists about 120 hectares, where we can examine different farming situation, different technologies, treatments, and say to farmers what is going on, how to achieve goals which are declared in soil deal. In field experimental station, it is possible not only to have field experiments, but they organize field days, workshops, conferences, and engages citizens and business partners as well. In our settlement, we have open access joint research center with many laboratories which are dealing with soil health, soil quality as well. And Agriculture Academy organizes each year, each second year, international scientific conference, Agro-Eco, Agro-Ecosystem Sustainability, links between carbon sequestration in soils, food security, and climate change. This conference will be this year on 26th, 27th of October, and I kindly invite all participants here or all Baltic colleagues to participate in such international conference. So it's directly dedicated to a soil deal for Europe, and we have annual national scientific conferences, FAME Summit, which will be held next week. Usually it comes many farmers all around our country, comes agricultural business partners, participates citizens. So we want to engage not farmers, but even citizens, society as well. And we have few long-term field experiments, and my presentation are based on two of them. We have established field experiment, crop rotation intensity, which was established in 1966. So we have arranged 9 different crop rotations, including intensive and old ones, and as well as maize and dry monocultures, and continuous beer-fallow is used as a control to assess the impact of those different rotations and monocultures on soil properties and the health. And the results show that intensive crop rotation is the best one according carbon sequestration ratio. There is highest carbon sequestration ratio because in such crop rotation we have perennial grasses, we have catch crops, we apply organic manure, and you compare with monocrop or rye monocrop, and to compare with continuous beer-fallow, this highest organic carbon sequestration ratio per year, from 360 to 560 kilograms carbon per year per hectare, to compare with continuous beer-fallow. And another one long-term field experiment we arranged in 1999, and we evaluate reduce and no tillage combined with use of crop residues and green manure. And you see the differences between treatments, and we established that there is no difference in crop productivity when we looking on long-term productivity, the same productivities, but of course with reduced tillage and no tillage, more less consumption of job, less energy consumption, less fertilizers, and so on and so on, and much cheaper. And even the reduced tillage and no tillage increased abundance of microbiota and microbiota biomass as well. And the best one treatment when we're looking on carbon sequestration ratio is when we have no tillage in combination with straw and catch crop application. To compare with deep plowing without straw, the carbon sequestration ratio is higher than 1 ton carbon per year per hectare. So it's very important to farmers to show such figures. They in such way they realize what they are doing, what the situation they have in their fields. So we are also are going to participate in living labs and lighthouses. And just now we started European joint project soil SOMPAX, soil management, effects on soil organic matter properties and the carbon sequestration. And I hope, and of course, I really know that our long-term field experiments, as well as other field experiments which we have, it is will lead to achieve mission soil deal for Europe. Thank you so much. Yes, I just forgot to say that our member of our department, Zita Kriaučiūnienė, was Mission Soil Health and Food board member, and she knows well things and what we must achieve. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor. It was really very interesting to hear what your university is doing and what kind of research you are managing. And we see that it's really very interesting and important and hot topic. So that's why everyone wants to share their knowledge so much. So we thank you that you are still staying with us. We are now inviting Professor Marta Pogrzebak from Poland, and to present phytoremediation as a solution for heavy metal contaminated land. So, Professor, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Can you see my presentation and also
perfectly? Perfectly.
Okay, perfect. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer. It's an honor for me that I have a possibility to present our results concerning using of phytoremediation on heavy metal contaminated sites. I would like to also tell you that I have also a honor and privilege to be a member of mission board. Thank you very much, Václavas, for the picture which you presented, because there is also a picture of me. And there is a beautiful time and the best time in my career, because I have a chance to not only discuss the scientific value, how soil is important in our life, but also give my knowledge and also some many different ideas how to do it. But it was also mentioned today, and thank you ladies from DG AGRI, that we have really a big problem with the soil contamination in Europe. Not only that we have near to 3 million potentially polluted sites, but more of these sites can be also contaminated, and 30% of that are contaminated with heavy metals. What is also really important, and it was not mentioned today, that we spend 50 billion euro per year to, let's say, as a cost of degradation. So only to remind you that for Horizon Europe, we have 90 billion euro. So there is a half of this cost. Yes, every year we spend for the soil degradation. But what is also important in case of heavy metals that very dangerous for us are soluble forms, which can give and go and migrate to the surface and groundwater. But as you say before in the first presentations, that we really need to take care about the reduce soil degradation and also diminish the number of degraded lands. And it was mentioned in our report titled "Caring for Soil is Caring for Life," published in 2020, and the authors are the mission board members. That we need really 50% of degraded land goes to the let's say degradation neutrality. So it means that we should let's say resolve that problem, and also we should remediate this soil or revitalize the soil. What is really important, we really need to enhance the number of urban soil reuse. and it was also mentioned that it should be enhanced to 50%. So it means that if you would like to plant something in cities, please look on the contaminated site, which should be restored, not take the let's say clean land outside the cities, because in that case we have the problem with let's say the cities are bigger and bigger, but we cannot use the soil inside. The problem of heavy metals, as you see, there is not only the Baltic Sea region or the eastern countries, but all the Europe are, let's say, have the problem with heavy metal concentration in soil, especially lead, cadmium, and zinc. And of course, there are some many possibilities to remediate the soil by technical methods, but these methods are very costly. So we may try to use the biological methods, and for heavily polluted areas, we propose the phytostabilization. It means that we can use the plants to stabilize the ground. Of course, when we use some amendments which blocked the mobile form of heavy metals, the process called assist phytostabilization. But we should remember that we not, in this case, not remediate the site. So all these heavy metals and all contaminants stay in the soil. We only block the mobile form of this contaminants, and also create a plant cover, and displays are safe. But for moderately polluted areas, means arable land contaminated with heavy metals, we can use the phytoextraction and produce, for example, energy crop for such areas. And in that case, we also can clean this land year by year and crop by crop. But also we have a problem with contaminated biomass, but I show you what we can do with that. And a few words about the phytostabilization. And as you see on the graph, we have the contaminants in the ground, and we blocked in the root zone these contaminants. But also we should select the plants which not uptake the contaminants to the above ground part of plants. When we use some chemical amendments, we can block and enhance the blocking of the mobility of heavy metals. And in this case, the process called aided phytostabilization. And how it works. There is the case study done 2 years ago in the city of Ruda Śląska. There is, let's say, in the middle of the Silesia region in southern Poland, and how the process looked like. We have contaminated soil, we have in the ground lead, cadmium, and zinc. We put to the ground the immobilizing agent. Our immobilizing agent, there was lime and also lignite. Then we should wait, of course, to immobilize this heavy metal fraction. Then the next step, we sow the grasses, and also, of course, based on the Polish varieties. And then after this process, after 2 or 3 years, we should monitor the ground. But as you see on the graphs, on the figures, we are able to block about 90% of available fraction of metals. It means that the second factor, so the grass, not uptake this heavy metals to the above ground part of plants, and you can see it also on the figures that we are able to cut by half the uptake of heavy metals by plants. And how the site looks, the figures on left, there is before the revitalization, and in the middle and the right figures, there is after revitalization. This method were used to stabilize heavy metals, and as you see, we also create a recreational area for citizens. And as you see from the middle pictures, there are also the residential area with when people live, but also we have the kindergartens, we have the shops here. So really the center of the city. And I'm proud because I'm a let's say, owner of the idea, and we did it, and we back this area to the citizens and residentials. And when we go to the phytoextraction and moderately polluted areas, there is completely different process. So we are interested that that plant uptake these heavy metals to the above ground part of plants. Of course, we can use also chemicals which chelate, so bound the heavy metals and transport them to the shoots. But different chelators, and I also analyze it, are very high prices, and the process is not possible and not economically possible to implement in the huge scale. But for these areas, we can grow energy crops, so not lost this arable land contaminated with heavy metals, but dedicated these areas to energy crop cultivation. So there is the idea for marginal soils. And why this idea is really important, because as I said previously, we have about 1 billion of marginal land in Europe. 30% of 800,000 square kilometers in Europe are contaminated with heavy metals, but also this land cannot be used for food and fodder production. That's why should be dedicated for energy crop production, and some of this energy crop have possibility to uptake heavy metals, so can be used effectively in phytoremediation. And our experimental side, which were used in different projects, you can see the heavy metal concentration. Only for your information, lead concentration 5 times higher than limit for arable land, cadmium and zinc 7 times higher than limit for arable land. And the first project, Phyto2 Energy, finished 2 years ago, so 4 years ago, and the main expected result was to obtain information which energy crops can be used successfully for biomass production and for remediation, but also we developed the guidance for farmers, and if you are interested, I can send you also that, but of course after the event. Some scientific data, you can see that using these 4 plant species, we are able to uptake from, for example, in lead, 1 kilogram per year per crop, or cadmium 200 grams, or zinc 4 kilograms. There is not so big amount, but if you, because this plant grows about 15 years, and if you harvest this plant every year, it means that you also in this harvest have the heavy metals amount. So it means that you clean your soil every year and every year. And of course, the next 2 projects, one of them, the first one, Miskomar, I was coordinated. The first one finished in 2020, but the next started. There is under the ERANET call, but this project are interested not only in contaminated heavy metal soils, but also to marginal and fallow soils, and also soils depleted under intensive agriculture, and also a few only data. You can see that also seed-based hybrids in this country, seed-based hybrids, because this project is dedicated to show that this marginal land can be used for this plant growth, and we are able also to uptake huge amount of zinc. But what is also important, we show the farmers that different biomass management are possible, and more profitable for them are animal bedding. So we show that it is possible to turn bad land into profitable land. And for farmers, it's really important, because here in Silesia, no one can ask if the technology, and not implement the technology if they not give us the money back. And the Miskomar Plus is also asking how we should manage this contaminated biomass, and you can see that it is able to different process use to manage this biomass, but because this biomass is contaminated, we can only use the gasification process, because the gasification process give us possibility to control if this heavy metals goes to gas, goes to ashes, or goes to tars. And also my idea implemented in the project that after gasification of biomass from contaminated land, we can use these ashes as a soil fertilizer, so we can close the cycle and bag this these ashes as a soil fertilizer. Of course, we can analyze these ashes, and you can see on the in the table that the values marked on green means that only this ashes after gasification of plants, in our example there is Sida hermaphrodita, can be used in agriculture, and gray color means that it can be used in brown reclamation. So not only then we propose the solution that energy crops can be grown on heavy metal contaminated arable land, but we also can use and close the cycle of this biomass growth. Yes, and there is our case studies in Poland, and we prove that phyto remediation is really help us to use in the real life in Poland. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Marta, for this nice overview. Really, I see that the topic is very hot, and a lot of questions were unanswered. So, but this was very interesting to hear all the presentations, and as some questions still are unanswered, so we would love to invite you to our next event. That next event, just we posted the agenda. And next event will happen June 29th. So we'll be very happy to see you there on June 29th at 9:30 a.m. again. And this will be dedicated to citizen engagement, and we'll try to answer all the questions that we didn't answer today. So we're really happy to see you there. And I would love to say thank you to the audience who stay with us a little bit longer today. So thank you very much. Thank you to my wonderful colleagues from 4 Brussels-based offices that organized this event together, and also colleagues, national contact points from our countries who were helping us with all these issues. And we are waiting for you to see you again in our next event on June 29th. So thank you once more time for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.